So Encore was an idea that we had for really two basic reasons. Being teachers, we were always looking for a way to increase our income. We had young families that were growing, and consequently we needed to do that. So the other real reason for having Encore was we didn't see that there was a camp that specialized in junior high, which all the bands in the state pretty much were junior high bands back then, instead of middle school. But anyway, we wanted to provide a camp that specialized in that age student. And that's how we got started. We said, let's see what we can do. I've been going to camp for years, taking my marching bands, so I was used to being on college campuses and knowing what you had to do there. And the two best junior high band directors in the state happen to be my two best friends in the profession. And so these two guys and I said, we'll start camp. And we started with, Ron, do you remember, was it 89 students?
87, I think.
87? Right in that area the first year. And we were just praying we'd have anybody willing to go. And we were at West Georgia College, right?
For the first 4 years. The first year we had 87. I think the next year we had 135. And we spent the first 4 years of Encore at West Georgia. Then we moved to Georgia College. But back to what Larry was saying, we started, Larry and I were talking one day, and I said, Larry, I really don't want to paint houses this summer. And Larry said, well, I don't want to have to sell shoes.
That's exactly right.
And that's a true story.
Yeah, that is a true story.
And at that time, I was teaching at John Savage's Mid-Atlantic Junior High School band camp up in Ferrum College. And so when we got the idea of starting the camp, I talked with John Savage and told him we wanted to start one down here, and it was no conflict of interest because it's so far away. And I said, how about if we use your brochure or summarize it and create our own? And of course, we did it with his blessing. So
yeah, that's great.
The unique thing about something 30 years old is that that's been so long ago, it's hard to remember all the initial details. True. But I think Larry hit it on the head, the nail on the head, in that we were looking for additional sources of income. But also Ed and I had both had summer band programs. Being junior high back then, our ninth graders would move on to the high school. And in our summer band, the kids that were younger came in, and all of a sudden were faced with that responsibility of first parts and a little more responsibility. And I think both of us saw tremendous growth in a week or 2 week summer band that we offered just to our own programs. And we thought there were a lot of benefits to it. And so the idea of doing something similar, I think easily grew out of that. And I think the other point Larry made was that the desire was always to have a unique product. There were band camps for high school kids, but nothing on the model that the guys created that specialized in these middle grade learners, junior high and middle school kids. And I think the thing that contributed to so much of the success of the camp was that the staff was always comprised of those people who loved teaching this age student. Of all the years of teaching, there's nothing to me ever been more rewarding than starting a beginner with no ability or experience and carrying them up through that point where they could perform moderately difficult literature at a very acceptable, or more than that, level. And I think we tried to create something that would really help those young kids. And I think we had a love for teaching that age, where a lot of people taught that age because they couldn't find a high school job.
Yeah.
And we hired people that were of like mind with us, and that we thought that was a very worthy position to be in, teaching younger kids. And as we fed into Larry, Larry was also a part of feeding into us, and that we all taught in the elementary schools.
That's right.
And enjoyed the process of starting beginners.
You know, Ron mentioned something that really jogged my memory, and it's a somewhat painful memory. When we started the camp, the staff was the three of us and our three wives. And that first year,
we did everything.
We did it all. We were the camp counselors. We were the teachers of the bands. We taught master classes. So basically, we were on duty almost 24/7. We weren't getting a lot of sleep that first year, but soon thereafter, as Ron said, we made sure that we got people to work with us who we already saw their success in teaching students the age that we were working with, and that made a huge difference. The growth of Encore, maybe we'd like to think it was because of us, but I've always said the growth of Encore came out of the fact that we found people who loved kids that age and were good teachers. And so we just managed the camp after a point in time where it got too big for us to do everything and live through it.
Well, one of the secrets of a great manager is surrounding yourself with people that are smarter and know how to do things as well as you do. And the success of the camp over the years has been that we surrounded ourselves with the best teachers we could find, both as conductors and also as master class teachers. And about master classes, one thing different from our camp than other camps that were in existence at that time is Larry was emphatic about providing that master class experience, not only from a band experience, but one-on-one students learning the basics from qualified teachers on their specific instruments. And that's what we have done, and Craig and William continue to do. They surround themselves with the very best that they can find on the specific instruments. And I can't tell you the numbers of times that all of us have heard from band directors about how excited their students were to come back from Encore, excited about playing their instruments and sharing that excitement with other students within their band program. And because of that, our camp grew and grew and grew and grew.
Exactly.
At one particular point, we had, Larry and I were talking about it on the way over here, we had 4 camps during one summer. One for beginners, 2 band camps, and 1 orchestra camp. And during that summer, it was huge. Now that was before everybody found out that they could do it.
Yeah.
But we had 800 and some students in camps that summer, which is huge.
Yeah.
And it just about killed me.
Yeah, all of us were tongues were dragging. You know, the second year after we had the first year, we also added the orchestra camp, the string orchestra.
And chorus, but that didn't fly. So.
Yeah, but the orchestra camp is still in existence too. We're talking today to band camp people, but Encore Orchestra Camp has been going on now for, I guess, 29 years, and it's doing quite well. And some of our former staff members are the owners of Encore Orchestra Camp, just like Craig Biffle, Ron's son, and William Kilgore, who always served as staff members at Encore Band Camp.
As a matter of fact, Craig was camp director for a couple of years.
For several years.
For several years before he and William decided they wanted to run the camp themselves. But anyway.
I think we've all heard that saying that failure's not an option. And I think one of the reasons Encore has succeeded for 30 years is that any of my colleagues that know these two fellows here know that this thing was started and willed to be success. It was started hopefully by folks who had reached a level of competence in their ability in the band field, and people who were just motivated to succeed. If their signature was going to be on it, it was going to be a quality product. And
well, Ron's being very nice there, and I appreciate it. But it was a trio. It wasn't a duet. And the trio all, these two guys at the time when we started this camp, band directors all over the state want to know how in the world are you creating such fine bands, including each year they had the most kids in All-State. One year it would be Morrow Junior High School, the next year it would be Adamson Junior High School, and then the next year they would flip-flop, and between the two of them, they had a very large contingency of well-taught students. So what that meant was directors across the state said, if Ed and Ron are helping pick the staff or are doing the teaching, and our wives who taught, Ron's wife was our business person, but my wife Martha Lynn taught flute, and Ed's wife Marcia taught clarinet, and they were also fine producers of quality students. So people looked at the people that were running the camp and saying, they're doing something right. And that's why I think band directors decided to endorse our camp with their parents. And you know, something we find very interesting now is there's quite a few band directors teaching in the state of Georgia who came to Encore Band Camp. Some of whom say it was kind of a spark that motivated them to want to teach music. And I was talking with Mr. Biffle, Craig Biffle, the other day, and he mentioned we now have students at the camp whose parents went to the camp back when we first started it.
That means we're getting old, guys.
That means we're getting very old. But it's also wonderful to see. It's one of the things Ed and I said, Ron got busy with being a quality woodworking man and other things. And so over the last few years, or many years actually, the camp, Ed and I were running it, and we kept saying, regardless of when we decide to hang it up, we wanted to see it continue because it provided such a great experience for students, something that we didn't think they were getting in other places. And so we feel like that's what's happened. Craig Biffle and William Kilgore have taken the mold that we've made, and we think they've improved upon it. And
the numbers went up in both camps,
that's
the orchestra
right.
camp and the band camp, after we decided that it was time to turn the reins over to somebody else.
Right.
But I think one of the secrets of success of Encore in the early years is that we all three taught together, and at that particular time, we were all three at the right place at the right time.
Yes, we were.
Mora Junior High School, and Adamson Junior High School, Mora High School. I'm not saying this boastfully, but it was probably the strongest program in the state at that particular time. But we were best friends, we got along, and I can tell you, Larry and I were in business for 21 years together, and we never had an argument about Encore. We may have got a little heated at times, but he was always open to my ideas, I was open to his, and Ron the same way. And so we were business partners, but also best friends. And that's a unique quality right there. One of the things that after 21 years, I decided that it was time for me to leave, because Encore, I know the guys may feel the same way, it was a second job. We would finish camp in July, and the very next week was time to start preparation for the next camp. And it seemed to me that there was always something that needed to be done. And I was unwilling to devote as much time as I had in the past, and it was time to turn it over. We sold the orchestra camp to Evelyn Champion and Carl Rickey, and immediately the numbers went up, and those people had been with us. Evelyn had been with us at that time 17 years, and Carl, I think, 13. So, and that the Encore Orchestra Camp, pretty much staff is intact from what it was 15 years ago, which is amazing. And the band camp, the same way, has a lot of the same people. And I was just happy that, and I've said many times, that the baby is still alive.
It's funny, Donna was talking to our son Craig, who was revising some housing list or something yesterday, and we were talking about those first 4 years when basically all of that stuff was done from our home by Donna, and without the aid of a computer.
Yeah.
So everything that was scheduled and correspondence and all that kind of stuff, mailings, I mean, we licked stamps and put them on the envelope, and it was a full-time job in addition to a full-time job.
Yeah, when we started the camp, very few people had email addresses. We had to do everything by hand.
I'm not sure that anybody had an email address.
30 years ago, you think about what's changed in 30 years as far as technology that makes things easier.
Yeah, the guys now are able to use PayPal and Google Docs, and they don't have to do the hand stuff that we did. And I'm happy for them.
Right.
We talk about why the camp grew and remained successful, and still is. And Ed alluded to the master class approach. Most band camps, the students go and they have a good time, a lot of recreation time, a lot of rehearsal time in a band, and that's very good. But our goal was, we were hoping that the vast majority, or all, if possible, of the students at the end of the week, if they were with us, they would be better musicians. They would love playing their instrument more. They'd be more capable of playing it. And in addition to that, they would have had a lot of fun, so that they go back home and they're enthused about being a band member. And also, that's why they brought their friends the next year, which helped our camp grow. But we wanted to make a difference in the lives of the students. Yes, we did make some extra income out of the camp, but the greatest reward was seeing the product on the concert night and at our recital nights where the students performed for us, and how much they'd improved from the day they came to camp.
Yeah, and I feel like some of our final performances, particularly with the honor band, was as good as the All-State band that year.
Yes, there were some really good ones. It's interesting that so many kids who've gone through the All-State experience were interested in coming to a summer band camp, not knowing exactly what the level of the group would be, but finding that it was just as good. Larry had mentioned that Martha Lynn and Marcia were private teachers in the camp, and I think Larry mentioned the master class thing. And the neat thing about the master classes was that they didn't turn out to be sectional rehearsals on the literature the bands were trying to play. They were designed, when we taught them, and later on when we had more staff to teach them, to help individual players become better on their instrument. So the bands improved because of that, but in these big classes that so many of our directors teach, very good, competent directors, there's just not that opportunity for one-on-one instruction and checking alternate fingerings and embouchures and things like that, that the master classes where we broke out sections in much smaller groups, I think that was one of the secrets of success in Encore, is that those kids not only learned their band music in that week, but they learned a lot more about playing their horn correctly. And hopefully we're inspired by some teachers that were pretty phenomenal.
Another aspect of Encore is the social benefit. I mean, probably 15 years ago, we had our first couple to get married that met at orchestra camp. And, the kids would come back into my band program talking about the friends that they had met at Encore. So I'm sure that there was some long-lasting, maybe life-long relationships that started because of Encore. And, we tried to have a great blend of education and recreation. But we kept them busy. They had a couple hours of supervised recreation in the afternoon, and pretty much other than that, and of course we had an event every night, but other than that, they pretty much had the horns to their faces the entire time.
Well, we let them eat.
And the food was great, as a matter of fact.
That is the great thing about a college campus, probably improved over a school lunchroom, is that we didn't get too many complaints about the food. There was enough of a variety the kids could find something they'd eat.
Yeah.
And most of them brought enough that they could have survived on what mom and dad sent them there with to start with.
Over the years, I've fielded hundreds of calls from concerned parents about, well, my son or daughter wants to go to camp, but they don't have anybody to go with. And they're afraid to go, or they're worried about their roommate, or what's going to happen. And I assured the parents that we matched the students up with someone who would appear to have similar interests. First of all, same age level. Obviously, boys with boys and girls with girls, but same age level. Perhaps if they couldn't come from their same school, a school nearby, so that it felt more like somebody from their hometown. And also, we tried to be sure that they understood that most of the time, the students who came and who were concerned about their roommate, they ended up having a great friend and wanted to come back the next year and room together. Because the next year when we would get their application, they would request, please pair me with my roommate from last year.
And we spent hours doing those pairings before camp, making sure that we got the kids with someone that they could live with for 5 days. That was important.
Yes.
You know, another thing I think all three of us are very proud about is that so many students who came the first year to Encore ended up coming back each year they were eligible until they aged out.
Right.
And to me that says a lot about what they felt like they were getting from the camp, as well as what the parents felt like they were getting for their money by sending the kids to the camp.